the theme of death also. So there can be multiple interpretations that we are going to go through. But first of all, let me tell you something about the poet. Before we start reading the poem, it is essential that I should be able to write down some of the basic facts regarding what is this poem about. So Siegfried Sassoon, I'm going to use this a lot, the surname Sassoon. Who was he basically? When we call this is a war poem, then I'm basically focusing upon World War One. He is a war poet, but in the background of First World War. And just imagine that he is not only a poet, he himself was a soldier in the First World War. So he had this multi role of being a soldier as well as a poet. And what is he doing in this poem? He offers a personal account of the horrors and traumas he experienced whilst fighting in war. This poem, Deathbed, is about a soldier who is slipping into his death. Just imagine Sassoon, after a great fight, or let's say some of the chaotic circumstances, he had been admitted to this hospital. He's on his hospital bed and he looks around him. There are so many other, wounded and hurt. They're emotionally as well as mentally wounded patients. There's so many soldiers around him, but one soldier catches his attention and becomes the source of inspiration for him. So, when I say when was the deathbed written, this poem was written in 1916. And the First World War, this First World War started from 1914. So it has been almost like 2 years that he has been suffering. Yes, we have a historical background. And when we talk about, in detail, what exactly are you going to look into when it comes to the speaker specifically? It starts with he. I know we haven't started reading it, but starts with he. That means I'm using omniscient narration. I'm using what, beta? I'm using omniscient narration. So, as if like I'm an all knowing narrator, I know everything what is going around. It's a personal experience decoded as a third person's experience. This is important. It's an interior shot of a hospital, but highly imaginative. Again, keeping in mind that Sassoon, while lying on his hospital bed, he cannot help but position himself as that soldier, how it feels that the person, while they sleep, and how do they get around. So let's read. Each stanza has how many lines? Liba, can you please count how many lines do we have? Each stanza has how many lines? Can we all quickly
Six.
count? We have 6 lines. And I told you, when we have 6 lines in one stanza, what do we call it? We call it a sestet. It's elaborate. It's not a short stanza. It's almost like an elaborate one. So I shall be proceeding further. Do you understand what do we mean by the deathbed? The deathbed, with every which is inevitable, which is bound to happen. Again, Sassoon, being not only the soldier but as a poet, he captures the traumas and the horrors of the war. All right, so let's just get started. He drowsed. I want Aliza to read. Aliza, would you give it a try? Aliza, the first stanza, please. He drowsed and was aware.
He drowsed and was aware of silence heaped round him, unshaken as the steadfast wall, aqueous like floating waves of amber light, soaring and quivering in the wings of sleep. Silence and safety, and his moral shore, lit by the inward, moonless waves of death.
Hmm. What is happening over here? Before we jump into any other further details, I just need to tell you that the soldier was nodding off to sleep as if he had been taking some painkiller, some of the medicine. and he was aware of the silence that surrounded him. It seemed as strong as the firm walls. The silence was more like what to him? Like, the firm walls. He was surrounded by silence and safety, although he himself was hovering between life and death. Please understand, when you ever come across the word sleep, it is a symbol of death. It is replication of death. When people sleep and they kind of like, almost give an impression of death, the coldness around him he can feel. So he's nodding into his sleep, he's sleeping. But you see, silence, steadfast. Where else can you find S sounds? Soaring. Who else is going to identify two more words which has sibilant
Aqueous,
sound? Sorry?
aqueous,
Aqueous. Thank you. Very good. Aqueous. Yes. Come on, give me some more words,
wing,
beta. Come. Hmm?
wings,
Sorry, you have to repeat again.
wings, safety, silence,
Silence, safety, but with wings, I'm saying Z sound. So I'm not going to count this. So you get to see all of these S sounds. What do we call them? We call them
sibilant
sibilant
sound.
sound. Yes. And they create what? They are soft sounds. But my question is, do you think that these sounds create a sinister effect, or you think they create a hush effect? Hush effect. What would you, I want each and
Hush
every one
effect.
of you to hush effect. Why? Because I just said that he is slipping into his sleep and he's about to be, but Sasu knows something is happening. Is he dying? What is wrong with him? How is he going to be able to survive? Does he need someone? Where is his family? So he was majorly concerned. Now this gets even elaborate. So this stanza gets even elaborate. Someone was holding water to his mouth. He swallowed, unresisting, moaned, and dropped through crimson gloom to darkness, and forgot the opiate throb and ache that was his wound. Water, calm, sliding green above the weir. Water, a skylit alley for his boat. Bird voiced and bordered with reflective flowers and shaken hues of summer. Drifting down, he dipped contented oars and sighed and slept. This is an urgency that someone needs to, someone brought him water and he drank it. He drank it while moaning. And then what he did before he lost his consciousness and dropped through crimson gloom. Crimson gloom is what? Crimson. What kind of a color is crimson? What kind of a color is crimson? We are thinking, what is the crimson color? It's a symbol of blood. Symbol of blood. It's red in color, crimson, as if he spat some blood, as if he was choking to his death. And then he said to darkness and forgot the opiate. That means his pain, his agony was so severe that the opiate, the drug, the medicine that he took did not have any effect on him. It even throbbed and ached, that was his wound. And then when he drank water, when he swallowed water, water reminded him. Suddenly, he shifted into his nostalgia and he said that water is moistness. It reminds me of those green, lush gardens. It reminds me of the open blue sky. It reminds me of that. So he's thinking that because when a person becomes unconscious and you're shifting, there's a pendulum movement in between life and death. So the person makes, insane ideas. They don't think that they are in their consciousness. So it's almost like a struggle. Suddenly it reminds him with a flash of, green above the weir and a skylit alley for his boat, and there are birds chirping. So this water reminds him perhaps of a lake, and there is what? It reminds him perhaps of a lake, and and that he's in a boat and he's sliding himself. Yes, I have received a comment which says, yes, yes, yes. There are multiple interpretations. At the very beginning, Aliza, because you need to know that the sound effects on the outside, layer of the text, they're giving you some sort of like, very soft sounding, but it's always sinister at the same time. So you need to interpret in multiple ways. You need to look at the sinister effect. You see, when you have watched Harry Potter, you would realize that Voldemort, I mean, there are points when he screams and he comes and he makes this dramatic movement, but when he sounds as if, it's always like this boundless waves of death. He always makes that evil, eerie, sinister, menacing sound, a haunting sound, as if something is hovering you, death is hovering upon you. So, in powerful way, it is yet sinister effect, but at the same time, death is approaching slowly and gradually, very steadily. Getting the point? So it has both the touch of the interpretation. How softly, how steadily it's approaching. So I hope I have answered your question. Please do acknowledge in the chat box. I would be happy. So this part tells us that um, in his unconsciousness, he's floating as if. Yes, multiple the interpretations, better, the better the remarks are going to be, but they have to be valid. You're looking from different angles upon. And I've got a sample response to it, not one, but two. So don't worry about it. This is your first time when you're analyzing a death poem. You need to realize that when the person is dying, they are struggling between sanity and insanity, how they are in between the world and life after death. It's almost like the transition is about to take place. So therefore, this boat reminds him of that summertime, the summertime when he was, happy, of those happy moments when he was jubilant, when he was exhilarating, bordered with reflected flowers and shaken hues of summer. There's a strong Suzora, and there is one line which has no pause over here: reflected flowers and shaken hues of summer. That means there were so many flowers. When he drank, sipped water, it reminded him of all that, the happy times, because now there's coldness around him. Everything is cold and dry, not on the outside as the war, but from the inside. He's been damaged. Just imagine, soldiers were suffering from PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. They lost their hearing, senses at most, or more or less. They completely need to connect themselves with their life. So, drifting down, d, so both of the d sound. What is this? This is called loud effect. See, against the first stanza, we have the soft S sibilant sounds, but over here we have the hard sounds. We are making up a contrast. We are making up a contrast. There is a contrast between the soft sounds and the hard sound. The hard sounds, because this is acting as an alliteration. If there are two words written or started with the same sound, D starts with the sound, down starts with the sound. So this is an alliteration. And then I have he dipped. And then I have darkness. and then I have dropped. So yes, and then I have crimson, then I have sound, which is very difficult, glooming. That shows all of these hard sounds indicate, signify, represent the soldier's struggle to confront death. He's struggling in between life and death. Therefore, the hard consonant sounds have been used. Apart from f sound, which is which is a bit softer. But we are looking at the dominating sounds. So it's a struggle. It's a hush effect. He dipped contented oars and sighed and slept. So thinking of the happy days, being in his nostalgia, reminiscing his past, reminiscing his past, sighed and slept. So that means he's been able to fall in his sleep. Okay, one more thing. If I'm going to erase the whole thing, you will get to see the punctuation. It's highly and tightly and densely punctuated. And when I say this, it means again the same point you're going to link. The pace of the poem is what? You tell me. What is the pace of the poem so far in the first two stanzas? The pace of the poem. Who's gonna tell me? Steady. It's slow, Manur. It's slow, steady. It's slow in the first, and then it becomes even tighter because of the water. We've got caesura hyphen because he's describing some of the ways in which it could be taken into account. Passive. Arsalan is okay. Arsalan, you joined us for the first time. Welcome to the literature class. I hope you do understand um, what is this poem about? This is dealing with First World War. I'm going to do a quick recap. It's a First World War poem, and I stop over here. Can anyone tell us more about who is Sassoon? Is he just a poet, or there is another role to him? Can you please turn on your mic? Can you please tell me something more about this
He
poet?
was also a soldier.
He was a poet and he was a soldier himself. So the pace of the poem is quite steady because when people are dying or people are in misery or they are in agony, they would not just, they can't be fast. It's always a dramatic end. And that's how this has been depicted. All right. So now the night is about to approach. Night has always been symbol of what? You tell me. You tell me, night. There's darkness around him. Darkness, I mean, just imagine darkness metaphorically. You write over here, darkness. All right. So I'm going to look at two layers of the meaning. So one meaning is going to be considered literal, and the other meaning is going to be figurative meaning. All right. Figurative meaning means either it is a symbol of something, or literal is like, okay, night is approaching. What time of the duration, what time of the day? Now we have the evening part and it's night. So what? It's getting intense. And look, where the gust of wind was in the ward. I want you to please particularly pay attention to the sound effects also, but do also understand the concept of this stanza. Again, it matches the length and the size of my first stanza. Is there anyone else apart from Aliza um, that who can read? Any volunteer? I am not taking anyone's name. I would be more than happy when you read this stanza. Anyone? Arsalan, maybe Mahanur, or it could be Laiba. Anyone?
Sure, miss.
Okay. Over to you, Mahanur.
Night, with a gust of wind, was in the ward, blowing the curtain to a glimmering curve. Night. He was blind. He could not see the stars glinting among the wreaths of a wandering cloud. Queer blots of color, purple, scarlet, green, flickered and faded in his drowning eyes.
Hmm. Interesting reading. What is happening over here? A gust of wind came through the hospital ward. So over here, hospital, it's understood, right? It's the hospital ward. And the soldier woke up and noticed it was nighttime. This is a repetition emphasizing on the time because he woke up and he noticed it. But when people immediately wake up, they can't see things clearly. And he happens to be a patient in the hospital. Obviously, he was on some sort of medication and he was all bruised up and wounded. So, night, full stop. This is called, beta, crisp word. What do we call this? Crisp. It's short and precise and something that comes to my understanding, comes to my notice. The wind blew ripples in the curtain. It's almost like, can you imagine? This is such an ominous, horrific scene. It almost reminds me of that movie, Conjuring, or perhaps Annabelle, when, in the dark corridor, the white curtains are gumbering curve, as in like it has certain movement. Perhaps he can see something. He was blind. He could not see the stars glinting among the wraiths of wandering clouds, so nothing was visible to him. Queer blots of color. What are these patches? Blots of color. Purple, scarlet, green, flickered and faded in his drowning eyes. What is this? What is happening? He started to see spots of purple, red, and green float into his vision. And as he was on the verge of passing out again, so basically he went unconscious again. Again, we've got an alliteration. Alliteration, two words starting with similar sounds. That shows that he passed out again. This is the second time he's been passing out. Previously, yeah, he drank water and he went to sleep, but then yes, blots of color, purple, scarlet, green, could also be the patches of, or the bruises. He could see nothing. He could see nothing. It's colorful, it's visual imagery. Is he in that state where you have no idea and you're passing out exactly? It's almost like, I'm telling you, the struggle between sanity and insanity. Those who had been studying with me for the past few poems, you would realize that death brings madness. Death brings madness. What sort of madness, beta? Madness in misery, madness of losing your loved ones, madness of losing your own self. It's crazy. A person can go become a maniac. It's suffering. It's so tormenting that it gives you madness. So yes, then you have, suddenly in the midst of night, what happened? So we had over here visual imagery that has, this was visual, and I have over here what? The sense of hearing, and what we call this auditory image. Sense of hearing. Since Ursulan is here, I'm not completely going onto difficult vocabulary, but I'm trying to make sense. Auditory image. Rain. He could hear it rustling through the dark. Semicolon. And over here, we are going to call this a weak caesura. Weak caesura is like a pause, but not that emphasizing. We are going to look at where it comes as a strong. Fragrance and passionless music woven as one. It made passionless music without any scent, because when people are happy they seem to be enjoying and they can smell the freshness of the earth. They feel music to their ears when it's raining, but he felt nothing. He felt, why? Because we are talking about the concept of, I think I need to highlight this part first of all. There's a concept of emptiness. emptiness of his soul, emptiness of his emotions. There is absolutely nothing. The concept of nothingness that gives you, there's a vacuum between him and returning to his life. Warm rain on drooping roses. These drooping roses. My question is, who is this drooping roses, beta? You need to tell me. I'll read this part, then you tell me. Okay? Warm rain on drooping roses, pattering showers that soak the woods, not the harsh rain that sweeps behind the thunder, but a trickling peace, gently and slowly life away, washing life away. Highly pessimistic, highly pessimistic. There is nothing positive about this. He's negatively charged with is his life, and it's washing life away. It's not washing death away. It's not washing, it's something that was taking a big part of him. Can we reread this stanza? I would request, apart from Eliza and Mahanur, they have been, mashallah, really active participants in my class, but I would request any one of you to read. Can you please reread the stanza? Come on, reread the stanza because I need to make some concepts over here.
Rain. He could hear it rustling through the dark, fragrance and passionless music woven as one, warm rain on drooping roses, pattering showers that soak the woods, not the harsh rain that sweeps behind the thunder, but a trickling peace, gently and slowly washing life away.
Thank you. Very good reading. Can you identify where is onomatopoeia? Onomatopoeia means sound word. For example, I'm going to give you a different sound word. For example, tooting of the horn, shuffling of my feet, creaking of the door, quack quack of the duck, buzzing of the bees. Is there any sound word?
Rustling.
Excellent. I need one more. Very good. Very good. Playing smart and giving me, hmm.
Drooping.
No, drooping is basically, just imagine drooping. That means roses, right? So when you stand and you feel dull, and when you're sick, as in like illness, and then you slouch your shoulders. I wish I could show it to you. You slouch your shoulders, um, as if you're giving up. You have lost your energy. Drooping is basically a posture. Hmm.
Miss Pattering?
I'm just going to explain you. I did not tell you. I am bringing you to that point. Okay. Yes. The point is pitter patter of the rain. That's a sound word. Very good. Smart girl. Pattering showers. That means rain is making the sound of pattering, right? And then not the harsh rain that sweeps behind the thunder. That means thunder. What is thunder? Thunder is war. Drooping roses. In war, who fights? Who fights in the war?
Soldiers.
Soldiers. And this is a metaphor. Metaphor for soldiers. Warm rain on drooping soldiers. Pattering shower that soak the woods. A little. What happens? Rain brings life to the land, to people. We need water, right? So he's saying that it's kind of a blessing from God, from nature. Nature is showering some sort of, trying its best to bring life to these hopeless people. But conjunction of contrast. Arsalan, there is conjunction of what, beta? This is a conjunction of contrast. but a trickling, as if he's holding the self argument. Trickling peace. I mean, there is peace, but it's trickling. It's minor. It cannot make a massive change. Gently and slowly. These are the two adverbs. Adverbs modifying washing. It's gentle, it's slowly, it's adverb washing life away. That it takes the life away. It doesn't do anything. Now we are getting back to the soldier himself. He stirred, shifting his body. Then the pain leaped like a prowling beast and gripped and tore his groping dreams with grinding claws and fangs. But someone was beside him. Soon he lay shuddering because that evil thing had passed. Oh my God, what is happening? What is that evil thing that has passed? This is so far the cliffhanger, the climax, the dramatic stanza of the poem. He stirred, shifting his body. The moment he wanted to turn his side to another, and then the pain leaped. So he's comparing pain with what? You tell me. Is there a simile or a metaphor? To what his pain has been compared? Hmm.
Beast.
Okay. So we have over here like a prowling beast, the monstrous effect, gripped and tore. So please understand that we have got action verbs. These action verbs are creating what? As if predator versus its prey. Predator, prey. He's been a victim, victimized by his misery and pain. His groping dreams, and they groped. This pain, clenched upon, clasped onto his dreams with grinding claws and fangs. Glottal sound. K. It gives you a choking effect, as if someone was strangling him to death, and then fangs. It's choking with poison. It's almost like toxicating for him. It's toxicating. It's almost making him lose his senses. So fangs again is poisonous. It's malleable, poisonous. But again, conjunction of contrast. But hold on, someone someone is used to add up mysteriousness, an element of curiosity. Was someone beside him? Soon he lay shuddering because that evil thing had passed, and death, who had stepped toward him, paused and stared. Oh, what is happening here? Who is going to tell me? Who had passed? And it says death. Death stepped. I'm using action verbs for death. Death is personified as an angel of death, as in like angel of his life taking source. So we are looking at the personification who would step toward him. It's face threatening. Just imagine, it is so face threatening. So his death is relief of pain. But you see, the psychology is people are too scared of death. If you are making such a point, Aliza, I'm going to look at where is the in the chat. Hold on, let me check because I need to reread your comment. So his death is relief of pain. I mean, we can assume that it can be relief of pain, but for him, it is even painful. He's not happy with it. He's he's horrified. He's terrified. He doesn't want to. He just want to escape away, but not to die. He's scared of death. He doesn't think that death is going to bring me peace of mind. No. And here comes Sassoon, the narrator. The narrator says, the poet says, light many lamps and gather round his bed. Can you think, can you imagine, can anyone in life save you from death? Save me from death. Even if you lamp so many, light so many lamps, even if you gather around him. Someone just wanted him to comfort. Lend him your eyes, warm blood, and will to live. These both lines are known as beta end stop lines. What do we mean by end stop lines? It means that in one sentence, the idea is clear. Light many, because he wants him to be rescued, to be saved. Lend him your eyes, warm blood, and will to live. Speak to him, rouse him. You may save him yet. He's young. He's young. Again, we did futility war poem, and Wilfred Owen said, "Was this the day? For this day the clay grew tall, the man grows tall." He hasn't seen life. So there is pity, there is sympathy, but more than sympathy, the reader feels a strong sense of empathy, as if he himself has been in the shoes of this particular person. He's young, he hated war. How should he die when cruel old campaigners went safe through? He's talking about the immorality, why the wickedness wins over. The universal appeal to the theme is good versus evil. Good has to win over evil. But he's questioning all the humanity, the mankind, he's questioning. And it's a rhetorical question to the reader and to the people who have been in the position. So he's creating awareness through his poem as well. When cruel, old, cruel, see the bitterness, the harshness of his tone, the harshness of his tone is in this question. It lies in this question. But death replied, I chose, I choose him. Inverted commas open and close. God like, nobody, I'm the master. Nobody can go against my will. Direct speech quotation has been used to show validity of the presence of death, personifying. Just imagine death is right in front. So he went, and there was silence in the summer night. He went, the soldier went. Silence and safety. And the wheels of sleep. The wheels of sleep is basically the burial process, where the sand and layers of sand, the wheels of sleep, then far away, the thudding of the guns. It took one soldier. Nothing changed. Things remained the same. The war was still going on. People were still fighting. The thudding of the guns is a loud effect, and it is an onomatopoeia again. Did you understand the poem? I know I got carried away with all the description and the details, but I have to say that we have an ambiguity whether he died or whether he did not, but through his implicit narration of the poem, that is, he went means, you know, he went means that he went to take, um, other soldiers' life. There are so many other victims around, and there was silence in the summer night. Mahanur says, did he, let me read the question. Um, did he accept his fate of death towards the last stanza? A person who is dying, he has to die, whether he accepts it or not. But he was threatened by his presence, by the presence of death. So it's against his will because he struggled a lot, he moaned a lot. Um, he was not submissive, he was not still. Um, and there is no hint whether he accepted or not. I think the acceptance was from the perspective of the narrator, from the perspective of the poet. That was to be taken account of. He said that they don't deserve to die. So it's 50-50. It's not exactly that he accepted. If he had accepted, he would not have been so much horrified by it. If there had been acceptance, this ominous feel, the petrifying, petrifying outlook of the poem. So, Arsalan, this was your first time with me. If you can say hello, I would be more than happy. Did you a bit understand the concept of the poem? You will get better with it as soon as you'll be, engaging with us in the physical classes. Aliza, how about you? Give me some comments, please. Yeah, Arsalan.
Yeah.
Is he audible, beta? Manur, can you hear him?
मैं
Yeah. Sorry, Arsalan, can you please? Yeah.
I think when it first started, I thought that maybe it was like an interpretation of the narrator as how he expected death to be, because he was like a soldier himself, right?
Hmm. Hmm. So, Arsalan, you're trying to say that this is ironic, that what he expected and turned out to be something else. It was ironic.
Should I
He himself was.
continue?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, so maybe
Hmm.
as the poem progressed, I thought
Mm-hmm.
maybe the narrator was
Mm-hmm. And as our story come to this part, which is a connectivity issue, and we all cannot help it. Your thoughts on this poem, please. Share your one um, productive comment that with which we can end the poem. Aliza, we'll start with you. What is your impression about this poem? It's quite sensitively written, isn't it? Okay. Laiba or Mahnur, any one of you. Oh,
Miss, I
Aliza
think
has
that
written. Mhm.
in
Mahnur,
this
yes,
poem,
please continue. Hmm.
Miss, I think that in this poem, the visual imagery and the audible imagery was very strong, and that made this poem really interesting. And it really gave us the sense of what a patient is feeling when he's like sensing the death is approaching near him, and
Hmm.
that is why I think this poem was very nice.
Hmm. I, nice, but in the pessimistic way. Yeah, nice in a way that we get to see. And one thing more, by the way, when you're going to be engaging with me in the physical classes, I would love to show you a video of this poem where this whole scene has been dramatically presented, and how the feel of the hospital, and something more about Sassoon himself. By the way, who inspired Sassoon to write war poems? Guess what? His contemporary was Wilfred Owen, who is the poet of futility. We just did a war poem, and that was called Futility. So he encouraged him to write poem, and that was his escape, and to address some of the issues regarding such problems. Hmm.
I think, the poem that we read, A Wife in London, it has kind of the same opinions about war.
Dropping a bit, dropping. Hmm.
Yeah, that.
Okay, sorry. They were asking me about the signal. I'm at college right now, so yeah, they were asking about it. Please continue. Sorry. Can you please repeat?
I was saying that, when we read The Wife in London, it
Mm-hmm.
had the same concepts about war,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
negative concepts. That is not actually something good, but a very dark concept, and it takes lives.
Hmm.
And mental traumas and the deaths, they are not justified. I think the same thing has been put over here.
Hmm. I'm so delighted by the end of this class that my students have this eye. You're being woke, you're mentally aware, and you're making interpretations. You're comparing that we did that poem and it resonates. It has some sort of comparisons. I'm so delighted to know that. And you are never afraid of, always sharing your ideas. And please keep that spirit alive. When you say maybe, perhaps, this could mean, that means you're sharing, that means you're alive, you're making creative critical comments. So I'm excited to see you again in my physical classes. That's it for today. You will be receiving a resource pack tomorrow. So that's it. Take good care of yourselves. Inshallah, I will see you in my next class.
Office
Love
miss.
this.
Allah Hafiz.